O ni hoko atu te ana mai. O kupu atau maringi mai. O ke piko maru mai ana. Ko mana ora te puna o te aroha e kore rawa e mimitie. Tēnei au, ko te hōkai nei i takutapu wai, ko te hōkai nuku, ko te hōkai rangi, ko te hōkai o tō tīpuna, a tāne nui a rangi. I pikitia ai ki te rangi tūhāhā, ki te tihi o mānono, e roko hina atu rā, ko i o matua kore anake. I rirui o ai ngā kete o te wānanga, ko te kete tua uri, ko te kete tua tea, ko te kete aronui kā tiri ia, ka paupaua kia papatu ānuku. Ka patutira tangata ki te whai ao, ki te ao marama, ti hei, Māori ora. A tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi o te rā. He uri ahau no Aotearoa New Zealand, no Waikato, no Ngāti Maniapoto, no ngā iwi Māori, o te taha o tōku whānau. I come from New Zealand. I first want to acknowledge our beautiful Te Āo, the natural world. They are my ancestors, not only in this physical plane on earth, but in the celestial space. And in our culture, we call them atua. We call them not atua in a sense like religious gods, but deities, supernatural beings. I also acknowledge my Māori queen, Te Ariki Nui, ngā waihono I te pō. And I also want to acknowledge your monarch, King Charles, and the people of this land. Te whare e tū nei, te whare wānanga o Exeter, thank you for having me here. And to all of you, all of the courageous hearts and souls that are here today, I greet you with humility and love. But I stand here not only as one person, but as a continuation of my ancestry. Carrying the threads of wisdom, love, pain, and possibility. This is my ancestral river, my awa, Waikato. It is the backbone and the life force of my tribe. These are my mountains, my maunga. And the one here on your left is actually the first ever registered person in the world as a maunga. We also have Te Urewera, the big great forest in Aotearoa that's registered as a person, and my awa tipua Wanganui. This is my marae, my place to stand in the world, my tūranga waiwai. Ko waiau, ko Jor'el McQueen ahau. I wear a few hats. I'm a cultural advisor, an indigenous workforce trainer. I work in prisons, I work with youth. I sit in tribal governance, and I'm also a Māori cultural practitioner leading therapeutic, ceremony, rituals, and rites of passage. Most of all, I'm a husband and I'm a father to two beautiful girls, Mila and Lishay. For the last 15 years, I've been working inside the social services sector back home, on the ground and in the forest. But today my talk comes from lived experience, not academia. Hands up if you know where New Zealand is. Oh, nice. Just checking, just checking. So when I think of my ancestors, long before written history, our ancestors were master navigators. They sailed the vast oceans 3,000 to 3,500 years before any other civilization took the seas. They read the stars, they followed the ocean currents, they listened to the winds, They tuned in. They watched the movements of the birds and the clouds. They actually were able to read the frequency of the land before they could see it. They were at a high level consciousness. And we were trading to over 100 countries and lands before British settlers came to our country. And this includes those of South America. That is how we came to know the kumara, the sweet potato, and the peru potato from Peru. Not only that, we traded a sacred medicine long time ago. And a lot of people don't know this because there's no written records. A lot of our knowledge has been passed down through oral traditions, through song, through carving, through rituals and storytelling. And I might share a little story today. I want to acknowledge one of the kings, the second Māori king, King Tawhiao, who he sailed here back in 1884, about 102 years before I was born. And on the map that you can see there, that is our region in the North Island of Aotearoa, and we call it Waikato. It's about 15 times the size of London, but I'm not here to compare size. Whakapapa, genealogy. This is everything to our people. But whakapapa is more than just genealogy. It is our sacred map. It's our culture that truly believes that we don't just descend from people, that we descend from nature, from the stars, and from all of creation. From te kore, which we call the void of unlimited potential, to te pō, the deep darkness, and from there into Te Āo Māori, the world of light. This image is a representation of one of our stories called Inoho Tatapu, to sit in a state of restriction. And it's a story about fear versus curiosity. It's a pūrākau, we call it a pūrākau. It's about protecting the sacred, about being flexible versus being stuck, and about flooding the darkness with light. You can see at the top that there's a little speckle of light there, which we call the hinātori. In science, I think they call it the Big Bang. Te ira tangata. This picture is a depiction of our journey as beings from the celestial space to now. We are the grandchildren of the cosmos, the children of Father Sky and Mother Earth. We are the actual babies here. We're entangled in the great web of the universe, being past, present, and future. In our culture, we live in alignment to the natural cycles of the earth and the sky. And what I'm showing you here is the cycles of the moon, and we call it the maramataka. It's not aligned to monochronic time, it's more polychronic. And a lot of us don't know, well, that's my assumption, that our evolutionary system is wired to the moon, and it influences our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, and our behaviors. So I want to introduce one of the atua, one of the deities in our culture, Tāne Mahuta. He's the god of the forest. So in our stories, Tāne wanted to bring light to the world, or enlightenment to the world. So he got on his head and he pushed his father with his legs up to the sky. But in this moment, he also planted his neural pathways into the earth, giving birth to our mycelium networks and what we now know as sacred medicine. Tāne was on a journey to acquire these baskets of knowledge. And we call this pūrākau, this story, Tāne Te Wānanga, the ascension of Tāne. Tāne was on a journey to get these baskets of knowledge, but it wasn't just about knowledge, it was about seeking understanding. And these three baskets, one of them is the known, what we see and what we do know. The second one is the unknown and what we are yet to acquire, what we don't know. and the unseen realm that's there that we are yet to tap into. The third basket is about the rituals and the ceremonies that can help us to elevate deeper levels of understanding. Some people call it the 12 heavens. One of my mentors, one of the old tohunga spiritual experts, he reminded me that it's states of mind and states of consciousness. Collective healing. This is some images from some of the work I do back home, rites of passage, holding space, and working as a collective. For my people, we always healed collectively. It was done in family, in community, and in tribe. We were and are connected to the supernatural world, and yeah, I just thought I'd share some of the images of the mahi. I think, you know, there's an issue out in the world where everyone's operating individually. You know, we live in our own home. It's that guy's problem that he's got an addiction, and we've moved away from the collective way of being, and it's damaging our communities. This is another rite of passage, which is a huge part of who we are. And this was one I led for women, because the wives are going, hey, we need some of that too. So it's a huge honor for me to revitalize these practices into the modern context that we live in. It's been about 185 years of resistance, fighting corruption and colonialism, but now we're in a phase of revitalization and resurgence to bring our healing back to the forefront. The impacts of colonisation. I acknowledge where I stand today, and I'm not here to blame, but I'm here to bring awareness. So I won't talk to every point that's up there, but in 1835 we declared our Declaration of Independence as a sovereign nation. Before we had actually signed Te Tiriti o Waitangi, the Treaty of Waitangi in 1840. And since 1840, we've been fighting for the Crown to honour their side of the agreement, the partnership. But what I want to speak about is, you know, our language was beaten out of my ancestors. Even my mother was caned at school for speaking our language. And more importantly, our tohunga, our spiritual experts were suppressed, and they were targeted because they were the holders of deep sacred knowledge, spiritual guidance, family healing, and connection to the environment. They didn't just treat the body, they cared for the spirit. These are some of our tohunga. The Tohunga Suppression Act. This is one of the clauses. Basically, in short, if we were caught saying prayer, talking about superstitious beliefs, would be put in prison. So why healing at home matters? For Māori, we tick the box on all the worst statistics, and this is a direct reflection and impact of colonisation. You know, we're 53% of the male prisons, but we're only 17% of the general population. We have the highest rates of youth suicide in the developed world, and intergenerational trauma is damaging many generations. So that's why I do the mahi. I do the work in the communities to support our whānau in their healing. Whānau means family. We need our elders, our spiritual experts, and despite the suppression, there's a resurgence of our tohunga. The knowledge was kept alive through whānau, through family, through storytelling, and through hidden practice. These are a couple of my tohunga. I owe a lot of my success to them. I also want to acknowledge a dear friend of mine, my sister Davina, who sadly passed away in October last year. She would have been standing where I am right now, hadn't she passed away. Love you, sister. She was an expert in plant medicine. And this is another one of my leaders, my mentors, Ngāti no Te Wāti. He's doing amazing work around the globe and back home, bringing indigenous knowledge and esoteric knowledge to the front and leading as an indigenous powerful man. Despite everything, we're still here. We're still strong. And oppression is still happening. Only months ago, 100,000 people in New Zealand stood in solidarity for our people, fighting against systemic racism. And we stand for our babies. That's why we show up. I've seen this pop up a few times over the last few days. Western science is catching up. So I don't need to speak into it too much. But indigenous peoples have long held, the ways of working with altered states through the breath, through meditation, fasting, and sacred medicine. And I'm on a mission to make sure it's accessible for our people. Not like in Australia where it's like 20 to 22,000 for a couple of sessions of psilocybin. I had the honour of co-leading the first national discussion on psychedelic therapy in Aotearoa. And I was invited to this project by my friend Davina that I shared before, and my good brother Tassine. This forum was held over 2 days, discussing what psychedelic-assisted therapy and ceremony could and should look like in Aotearoa. And I'm working with Tassine, who you'll hear from next. He'll cover a little bit more about this project. It's been an honour. So, on to some of the psychedelic stuff that I'm here to kōrero about. I'm here to talk about a Māori model of taonga. So we use the word taonga, which means gift, instead of psychedelic. What does a Māori model of taonga therapy look like? So I've spoken to it a little bit before. Psychedelic ceremony, ritual, and rites of passage. And there's a three-step process in that. Usually it starts with separation from our normal daily life, the distraction of our phone, all the noise of the world. And we take ourselves out into nature for about 4 days, maybe 5, to really tune into who we are beyond this physical self, beyond all the roles and the hats and the responsibilities. And that's when we enter the next step of transformation through rituals and ceremonies. And after that, and through the ceremonies, we use a lot of our knowledge systems and our ancient wisdom to really understand our place in this universe. And after that, there's the integration that I know a lot of people are aware about how important the integration is. And that's done through midi, which is massage. It's done through singing. It's also done through storytelling and supporting each other as a collective. So this last bit of time that I'll use, I'm going to be talking about sound and the importance of what we call whakarongo. And whakarongo is to listen, but it's more than just listening with our ears. It's a way of being and a way of healing. It's being able to listen with our hearts, listen with our body, listen with our spirit. So in the beginning, there was vibration, there was breath, there was sound. Before there was words, there was the voice of the forest, the rivers, the winds, and the heartbeat of Mother Earth. Our ancestors didn't just hear, they listened very deeply. So I want to take us through a little bit of sound soon, but I want to speak into the aspect of silence as well, especially in ceremony. Silence, it's not something to be afraid of. It's something that can ignites spirit. It's something that can shift our emotion if we allow ourselves to sit in the silence. Where Western models sometimes will often fill the space with music. In indigenous healing traditions, we often open space with the silence and subtle sounds. And I want to share some of our instruments soon. But sound is like a mirror of our emotion. It allows for emotional release and it invites the spirit home. These are some of our taonga, our gifts. And our taonga are not just instruments. We see them as living ancestors of sound. And on that note, I'm going to invite us into a small little journey. So the invitation right now is to get comfortable in your seat. Draw your eyes closed and just allow yourself to absorb the sound. But we're going to start with 20 seconds of silence. Just to tune in, listen into your body and the vibrations of the room. Coming back in your own time. So I want to speak about, it's not only about receiving sound, it's about making sound too. So after an experience or a journey, we can find continued healing in song and chant and toning together as a collective. So I want to leave you with some kōrero. It's about future visions and the pathways ahead. I see a future where Indigenous peoples don't just participate, but we lead, where therapy honors Mother Earth, Father Sky, and all supernatural beings of nature and spirit. This isn't just a presentation, it's an echo out to the universe. And I have this one question for each of you to ponder over. When Indigenous knowledge leads, what kind of global healing becomes possible? Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Ko te piko te mahuri, ko ia te tipu a te rākau. He rita tangata, he Māori reo, he Māori ora, he Māori ora e.
Hey, Māori ora. Ngā mihi, thank you for having me here.